everybody.
Hi, everybody.
I'm John. I'm Scott. I'm Scott.
I'm John.
And we're married.
Apparently for a little too long.
Yes. And this is Harris.
This is Harris. Happy April 17th, everybody.
It is May 17th, actually.
Gee.
And it's the day after my birthday, so you should be saying happy birthday, day after birthday. Today.
Happy belated birthday, honey. Although it's not really belated because I managed to wish you a happy birthday on your birthday.
I know,
so.
you've gone back to being mean to me because it's no longer my birthday.
I know. He gets one day.
So
Anyway.
we're coming to you from Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Yay.
Where it is currently
Cold and rainy. So we're not feeling
like downpour all day long.
Yeah, we're not feeling very spring-like today.
No, in fact, it's probably we haven't had the heater or air conditioner on in our house for probably a month.
Yeah.
Because it's just been really kind of nice out, cool in the evenings, and you've got a sweater on today.
I do, and I don't feel warm at all.
A very special sweater.
Yes, more about that later.
And I'm wearing a black shirt, so I'm not feeling very spring-like, but.
So this is going to be a full family podcast.
It is.
So
we're mixing it up between our other recording location and this recording location.
Yeah, some people seem to really.
Oh wait, we gotta take his.
Oh yeah.
Jingly jangly off.
Yeah, or you'll just hear that all the time.
Yeah. So we are a knitting podcast, not a wrestle with your dog podcast.
Okay.
I got it.
Okay.
I got it. Ta-da! Okay. So now he won't make so much noise.
Yes.
No, make so much noise. Okay, so we are a knitting podcast, which is neither on your iPod nor is it cast from a spell. You can pay attention. You can play with the dog.
He looks so miserable.
It's true. So I've got one finished object.
Yep.
I've got 2 whips, and I've got cat hair all over my jeans.
Right.
And then I've got one acquisition.
Right.
Then we've got. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
And then we've got my favorite part of the podcast, an Angela Lansbury movie review.
And then I have a finished object, I have 2 works in progress, and some acquisitions.
And I have a Betty Ann update.
Oh dear.
I have a story to tell about why
you are the way you are.
I am the way that I am.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's going to be like a 3-hour podcast.
Probably.
So
we're gonna try
buckle up, everybody.
Yeah. What else can we talk about before we dig right in? We've been watching some podcasts. We've been watching the Needles at the Ready podcast, which they just released episode 10.
Something like that. And we're
on episode 9.
Sure.
I think. And then we just watched a brand new podcast, The Beaded Pearl.
Mm-hmm. Bearded Pearl.
The whole point of it is, yeah. So that's Caleb, I believe,
right.
is his name. And so that was a very fun. I wish I could be as organized as he is.
Well.
But I'm never going to be as organized as he is.
We are what we are.
I know. It's just like, I looked at his yarn and I looked at the way he presented everything, and I'm like,
yeah, no,
I'll never be able to be that organized.
But that's okay.
But he's knitting a sweater, and I need to go back and watch it because I commented on a post of his today. He's knitting a sweater that cream colored yoke, or it's not cream, but it's like a beige colored with the green, like a super bright green yoke. And I need to find out what he said. It knits itself.
Oh, good.
So
I love those kinds of sweaters.
I know, right? I need to find the yarn too that he used because I love that green.
You could use the. Didn't you buy that purple? I bet you that purple was something.
What purple?
The purple you bought for the cardigan. You know that you get about that yarn sweater's worth of stuff from. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
It's not purple, honey.
It's blue.
It's
gray,
like grayish blue.
Whatever.
I feel like we talk about the same things over and over on our podcast, and people probably don't even watch anymore because they're like, oh, they're going to talk about John being colorblind and Scott's mom in her tube top.
Yeah. Well, maybe, if this is your first time tuning in, it's new to you.
It's all new. It's
right.
all new to them. That's awesome. That's right, our subscription. One episode we get like a bunch of subscribers, and then the next episode it goes to 0.
Right.
Because they're like, wait a second, this is just a repeat of the last podcast.
That's
All
why
right.
that's why we change up locations to trick people.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
the same content over and over
Over
again,
and over
but different
again.
locations. And get right.
All right, so let's dive into the knitting.
Okay.
Because people watching you play with the dog is probably also going to get us to 0 subscribers.
No.
You've got schmutz on your head.
Oh.
Okay.
It's a goal.
All right. So, so I've got a finished object and 2 works in progress and an acquisition. What do you have?
I have the exact same thing.
Okay, so why don't you start off with, I'll start off with my finished object.
Right.
So we were sitting down, for those of you who haven't watched this podcast for very long, this whatever. I feel weird every time I say podcast because it's not a podcast.
Neither a pod nor a cast.
That's what the knitting community has called it. So I'm gonna let it go. 40 whatever episodes in, I'm gonna let it go. 30 episodes in. We for some reason have gotten into this Angela Lansbury watching her movies and reviewing them each week.
Mm-hmm.
And so we sat down to watch this week's movie, and I was like, you know what? I think part of the reason why I'm like having COVID quarantine related mental health issues is because I never finish anything. And I don't mean just knitting. It's like I never finish anything. I just start something and then I get bored with it and I'm like, well, just go on to the next thing. So I need to finish something. So I did a dishcloth because I started it and finished it during the movie. So I used some of the dishy worsted weight yarn that I got from Knit Picks. I still think it's weird though because that just doesn't feel like worsted to me.
Yeah, it feels like sport maybe. I think worsted is a little heavier.
Yeah.
But
so I mean, it's whatever. I mean, I know that it's not a specific whatever.
Maybe
but
cotton has a different.
yeah. So this was it. It's just one of those grandma's favorite dishcloths, I think, is what it is. And so it's just a dishcloth. I never understood why people raved about these things, and people would give them to me, and I'm like, that's great. What do I want this for? And now, I mean, we've gotten addicted to using them. So,
Yeah, they're great.
So somewhere I read that there's an old Irish saying that when you make something or knit something that you put a little bit of your soul into it, and you have to have a mistake in it so that your soul has a way to escape.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have 2 ways that my soul can escape on this because I wasn't really paying much attention to it. But I've got an extra yarn over in there, and then also up here I forgot to do a yarn over. So, but hey, what does it matter, right? Oh no, wait. Oh no, that one. Okay, this is where I forgot to do the yarn over. So,
Right.
What does it matter, right?
See, I'd always heard that if you knit a perfect object, the angels take it. And so...
Oh, kind of like me. I'm so perfect that the angels will take me someday.
Waiting. I love
Nobody
you.
likes you. All right, so...
It's not your birthday anymore. I don't be nice to you anymore.
The reason that I chose this color was mainly because I had bought this bunch of different yarn, dishy yarn, mainly for making these dish towels. And this was not going to be a primary color of one of the towels. This is going to be a stripe color. So I knew I was going to have extra to do. So I just did a dishcloth. Ta-da!
Yay!
All right. Do you want to go next?
Yes. So I am wearing my finished object. This is the Marledish sweater. It was a test knit for Corrado Lark. Again, like repeating content. I think I've said this like about these next 3 sentences like 26 times the last time.
But I bet you can remember the name of the yarns now.
I bet I can. So the way it works is you take 3, well in this case, it's basically fingering weight yarns held together. So for the brown part up here, which is the collar, which is held double, and this top part is Apple Fiber Studios Macintosh
Is the base, I think.
is the base. And the colorway is Cedar Canoe. So that's this brown part and the collar held double here. The yellow that's marbled down here is Barocco, and it's just a fingering weight superwash Barocco. I think the color online is Butternut.
Well, haven't you seen it as like goldenrod?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like color 247, and I think people the different suppliers name it as best they can. And then the gray here is Emma's yarn, practically perfect sock yarn, and the colorway is Nailed It. So, and the way it works is this top part is the Barocco and the Apple Fiber Studio marled together, and then I did a little sort of transition pattern part where it's marling all three, every other thing, and then down here is the Nailed It marled with the Barocco. And then the cuffs, right here, are the Nailed It held double. And anyway, I'm gonna stand up really quick. See the other thing I like about it. It has this the front, so that it has the what do you call this? The bottom rib. It's a divided rib. This is the Barocco and the Nailed It marled together, and the back is the Nailed It held double. So I am really happy with this. It took about 2 months to knit. For those of you who tuned in last week, there was a bit of a crisis on Infinite Earths about the blocking.
Infinite Earths?
If you were a nerd, you'd understand it.
Well, can you tell the rest of us, lowly scum that don't get the reference?
It's a very famous comic. It's very famous.
Very famous to you nerds.
Very famous DC comic series about multiverses.
Okay, what has that got to do with your knitting?
It's a crisis on Infinite Earths. Like
that's the name of it.
The idea is that it's such a big crisis. It happens on infinite Earths across the multiverses.
Of course.
So that's how big of a crisis it was. With the blocking. So what happened is basically it's 3 superwash yarns. So all 3 are superwash fingerweight yarns, and when I blocked it, it just got a little big. So and I might have gone through all stages of mourning.
Grief, yeah.
Denial, bargaining, acceptance. There are more. All of them. So what I did is actually, after it pretty much almost fully dried, I just put it in the dryer for 6 minutes, and now it's fine.
Yeah.
And I didn't really lose any of what I was worried about. I thought it might get all fuzzy, and it's certainly a little fuzzier than it was before, but it doesn't feel like a felted sweater. So
somebody had commented in the comments that the fuzziness after drying with superwash probably has more to do with the twist than anything else.
Right.
Or was it the twist they said? But that other yarn, the one that you did your flax in, it definitely was fuzzier yarn than this. So
well, it was fuzzier yarn, and that one got shrunk down. I mean, the flax...
You put it in the dryer for a long time.
Yeah, this one was like pretty much 6 minutes in the dryer on low heat, and it ended up fitting actually after the first time going in, it just fits fine. See, the cuffs are fine, the length is fine. But thank you everyone who helped. So there were a lot of things in the comments, and they range from don't ever knit a sweater in superwash ever again, which is actually good advice. But the most consistent piece of advice, I think, is, and what I'll probably do going forward, is basically when you knit your swatch, measure it before and after blocking, so you know how much it's going to grow from the blocking, and then you can sort of make some estimates based on that, which I think is the right way to do it. And as someone who hates swatch, so I don't have it, but I do not like swatching.
I think that for me, turning the corner on swatching, or something that's going to make me want to swatch, is, I don't know if you noticed when we watched the Bearded Pearl, Caleb's podcast, his swatches were amazingly beautiful. Like he had these perfect edges and everything like that. And I'm wondering if making an art piece out of your swatch,
as opposed to just as small a piece of stockinette as you can possibly knit. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. I don't know if you've been watching us for a while. The first sweater that I ever tried to knit in this podcast, I didn't swatch at all, and I just
the blue one.
The blue one. So I basically looked at this pattern, and I was like, oh, it says this type of needles with this yarn. So I did that, and it was like a big blue garbage bag.
Yeah. It
was enormous. So I have since learned to swatch.
Big blue camping tent.
Camping tent. It's basically the size of a Cookie Monster costume. And so I've definitely, I appreciate swatching. But to me, swatching is one of those things you get through, and
right.
It's not, yeah. But I think I think with the whole thing, doing the swatch, then blocking it, and then measuring how much it changes. But to me, it's like, oh my God, that means I'm gonna have to knit these really big swatches, and what if that big swatch isn't the right size? I have to do another one.
Oh yeah. Yeah, well.
Yeah, I know. I mean,
is.
for a sweater, which is so much time and work, I think that makes sense.
Well, and I think
and especially knowing that especially if it's superwash. Like I think if I was doing
Yeah.
another one, yes, it is superwash, isn't it?
Okay, people are bored.
And, hey, you can cut it out.
So I think one of the things I don't know if we made clear in the previous conversation was that, because a couple people had said, well, you need to wash your swatch. Well, you washed your swatch.
Yeah.
You did all of that.
Yeah.
But I think the key piece of information out of that is measuring it before and after and seeing how much it stretches.
Well, I think also, my swatch for this sweater was probably, that big.
Yeah.
So I think in terms of, and I really, only, for the swatch, I was really only measuring the number of stitches per row. So once I figured that was okay, and again, there was never an issue with the horizontal fit.
Right.
So I think even if I had done that blocking and measuring that small swatch, it wouldn't have got me what I needed to do.
Right.
So I think actually knitting a 4x4 swatch.
Well, and the bottom line is, you obviously know what you're doing. I mean,
Right.
it's a beautiful sweater. It turned out it's just,
Right.
there was a little bit of stress. I mean, you weren't that far off. It wasn't like a cookie monster.
No, it was not bad. It was only, and I think also once it was dry and could pick it up, it wasn't as terribly off as I thought it was.
Right. And I think somebody else talked about this, and you and I talked about it, is like, don't pick up a wet sweater. Oh.
Yeah.
Somebody recommended a video.
Of how to block a sweater.
Of how to block a sweater. It's a woman. I don't remember her name. I don't remember the name of the podcast. I will link it in the description below. But it was real. Did you ever watch it?
No, but you sent it to me.
So
I was too far into my trauma at that point.
Yeah. So what she does on that is really fascinating, because she takes this square shaped container and fills it with water. And then she takes the knitted sweater, she folds it up into a square and then pushes it into the water. She doesn't move it around. She doesn't do any agitate that's going to stretch it at all. She just presses it into the water till the air comes out. Then, when it's done, or after a certain period of time, she pulls it out of the water and squeezes it a little bit to get some of the water out. Then she takes the folded package, puts it into the towel,
and rolls it,
and presses it, rolls it, that kind of stuff. And then she uses pins on her blocking mats to pin out where the neck is going to be, the armpits are going to be, the bottom of the sweater is going to be, all of that. And then she unfolds it into those spacing. And so she's never putting undue stretch on the fibers at all.
Right, that makes sense.
And the one thing that she didn't describe or discuss, and she didn't talk about why, was that she only blocked it in water. She didn't use any wool wash or anything.
Huh.
I don't know if that would make a difference, but I prefer to do it with wool wash because it creates this great smell. And as somebody else had talked about, the oils from your fingers and potentially dirt of having it in your project bag. Not dirt, but you know what I mean? Like having it in your project bag and all that kind of stuff. I like using the wool wash, but for the smell, if nothing else.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just that she wrapped it up in a package that she tried not to disturb at all during the whole process.
Yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, I mean,
each of these is a learning experience.
Yeah. The only thing is, I think I would have, if I were doing this over again, I would have looked up and figured out how to do the short row neck shaping because it's a little high in the front. I mean, it's not bad. It's just
No.
It could be higher. And then the other thing is, I think that I need to figure out. I think this is as designed, but like I don't like this much scoop in my collar.
Yeah.
So, but I think that's the way the pattern is because it's
And it looks great.
It looks great. It's just it's my style. I like more of the crew neck or V neck. So, but yeah, and I don't know when the pattern's gonna be released, but watch for it. It's a great pattern, and I think the nice thing about it is it can be. I mean, I did 3 colors. Some of the other people did the test knit, like just did a stash buster. Like they took like one base color, did like, you know, a couple of skeins of stuff they'd left over. So I was thinking as long as it's about the same weight, it's the same thing, it would be fine. And yeah, great pattern, really fun, good details and stuff like that. And it's very unique. So
Cool.
Happy to be done with that.
That's your second sweater.
Second sweater. So if I can get a third one done this year, I'll feel super accomplished.
Yeah, and I'm knitting a sweater, the patina pullover, and it's on hold at the moment. I've just got like half of one sleeve and the other sleeve to do, and then the neck. And the reason that's on hold is because Betty Ann, my mother, has bought me the blue Chow set that so many of you recommended. I had never heard of it. I would have never heard of it or never even known about it if it weren't for the people that commented in the view.
Yeah.
So that's awesome that everybody did that. But it's basically smaller circumference cords and shorter tips.
Okay, so it's actually better for sleeves and stuff like that.
Right. But bigger, what do you call that? Bigger gauge needles. So it's not like 2.5 millimeter. It's more like US 6, 7, 8, that kind of thing.
Because I did when I was doing this one, I did the cuffs using the minis, and that was awesome.
What tip did you use?
3s.
Oh, that's right, because you only needed 3.
So this is a 5.
And 3s are as big as the mini set gets.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So this was the main sweater was in 5s, and this was in 3s. US 3s.
Yeah, so I think one of the things that people mentioned about that sweater in the comments was that my gauge, when they looked at my sleeve, it looked like the gauge changed. And I went back and looked at it, and it's a distinct, like, you can tell the gauge changed.
Really?
I think I used the wrong size needles. I think it was supposed to be 9. I think the body and everything is supposed to be 9s, but you do the rib in 7s. And then I used 7. I went to 7. So I think I made a mistake. I can't decide if I'm going to pull it out or not.
How far? You get to like right here?
Yeah.
You could just do the sleeves in 7s and have it be a design element.
It's true. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
I got to go back and look at it. And, you know, one of the things that I need to do, but I don't do, is better documentation about my knitting. So, like, I didn't write down what size needles I'm using.
Right.
So, I think I just assumed I was using what the pattern calls for, but I don't think I met gauge when I did my test swatch. But it's on hold right now until I get that set of blue, the blue Chow Goose set. I think it's supposed to get here in a week. So.
Cool.
Yeah. So I've got a work in progress I'm going to talk about, which kind of goes into my acquisition. So I why don't you talk about one of your works in progress, because then I've got I'm sorry.
This is our dog.
This is ridiculous. So then we've got because my other work in progress ties into our knit along. So.
Yeah, that sounds good. So I'll do this one really quickly. And this is the cowl I was working on before. It is, and I think the nice thing is that there's a little bit more of it done. So the pattern is called Escama del Dragón. It's by the Manos de Uruguay's people, and I'm knitting it in this Bishop's Castle. See, I've got this one memorized too. And the dyer is Herd of Turtles. No, Herd of Cats. Herd of Cats. Herd of Cats. Although Herd of Turtles is pretty funny too. So the dyer is named Herd of Cats. This is their... Shut up. No one likes you.
Okay, this is my favorite game. I'm never letting you look at your yarns ball bands again just to see.
So it's Road Trip Sock Yard.
Wait a second. I want somebody out there to create a yarn dyeing company called Herd of Turtles and come up with a colorway called Rusted Wheelchair.
There we go.
We're gonna that's what we're gonna do is we're gonna start a yarn dyeing business, and every weird thing that you come up with is what we're gonna name our yarn.
That sounds...
I'm gonna come up with a colorway called Herd of Turtles.
Herd of Turtles. I mean, slower than a Herd of Turtles. So Herd of Cats, Road Trip Sock Yard, Roadside Wonders, Bishop Castle, which someone mentioned in the comments is this really cool, like, robber baron mansion outside of Colorado, outside of Denver, that's like done with all this granite or iron. Anyway, so it's called Escama del Dragón.
Your yarn is caught on somebody's floopy ear.
Oh my god. So here's what it looks like caked up, and here's kind of it's.
Wait, they didn't see that. Slow down. Take a deep breath. No, they didn't see. You said, here's what it looks like caked up.
Shut up. So here's what the yarn looks like caked up, and as you can sort of see, the slip stitch pattern is happening. It sort of has this really cool scaling effect. So yeah, this one's coming right along. I tried. I think last time I talked about like the difficulty. I'm Portuguese knitting this, and having this sort of difficulty reading the pattern and getting off which stitches to slip and which ones not to. So what I did for this last row, is I turned the work and tried knitting it. So I did a wrap stitch and basically turned at the last thing. And I did the last row just regular knitting, and I made just as many mistakes. So.
Oh, that's what you were talking about.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's good. I think I'll go back to Portuguese knitting it because the Portuguese knitting is very fast. But so yeah, it's coming along.
This is for
a friend Steffi.
Steffi, yeah.
Who it's just fun because I would these colors are a little outside of my wheelhouse, but they're completely in hers.
Right. Yeah. Because that's not. I am not drawn to that color story.
Yes. But apparently I was drawn enough to it to buy it at some point.
Right.
So yeah.
All right. So. Yes. Okay. Sorry. I was just trying to remember something. Okay. So I'm gonna drop the dog's head off my foot. He's resting his head on my foot. So I'm gonna drop his head. Sorry. I'm sorry. Okay. I gotta get something. I forgot.
Oh no.
All right. So this is my other work in progress, which is a pair of socks. Not much progress has been made because I've been focusing on my newest cast on, which is for our knit-along.
Mm-hmm.
However, I did finish this sock. So this is Foxy by Ted Knits UK, and this is Gold Dust by Ted Knits UK.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was thinking that the COVID quarantine stuff was going to keep my yarn from getting here from
Mm-hmm.
Ted Knits UK, I don't know why I did this. I went to 2 other dyers and bought gold yarn.
Right.
Like, why? Like,
because one is never enough.
if 1 is good, 3 is better.
Exactly.
Right? And
you can never have too much gold yarn.
well, and I'm definitely going to start putting gold toes and stuff into my socks.
Right.
I think that's fun. So
And now you can match if it can be a gold jewel tone or dusty
the different
gold.
golds.
Yeah.
So I did buy this one. This is Sweet Georgia Tough Love sock. And she's in, where is Sweet Georgia? She's in, I want to say Wisconsin.
She's not in Georgia?
Nope.
Okay.
Canada. No, she's in Canada. Okay, I don't know where in Canada. But this is pineapple.
Mm-hmm.
And this is 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon. And so it's a really nice warm gold color. So I got this in the mail. I bought this I did an order from a local yarn store. It's about a 45-minute drive away in Stillwater, Minnesota, and it's called Darn Knit Anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I just got an email from them that they're opening with the change in the COVID, the quarantine rules. They're opening, and you sign up for like an hour slot, and 3 people can go in the store at a time.
Oh, that's nice.
So that's kind of fun.
Well, because we really like that store, and that's such a we just Stillwater is right on the banks of the St. Croix, which is the border river between Minnesota and Wisconsin, and it's just a really pretty city, and there's a lot of nice stuff up there. So it's nice.
Lots of antique stores,
Yeah.
lots of arty
Yeah.
stores. So anyway, so I got this. I also had bought 2 more of the cords for our twists, our Chowgu needle set, thinking that was going to give me a smaller circumference needle for knitting the sleeves on my sweater, but not doing the math, since an 8-inch cord plus a 2, 3.5 or 4-inch tips. Harris was done.
Yeah, and he's like, you guys are super boring.
Well, he probably got hot. So
Yeah.
anyway, we got 2 more cables from Darn Knit anyway, and then so this is as far as I am on the second sock. I am using this for knitting during meetings where I'm not running. Most of the meetings I'm on, I have to run the meeting. But in some of the meetings where I don't have to knit or don't have to run the meeting, I can sit and knit, because I find that if I don't have something in my hands, I tend to do that thing where I check my email or I'm looking at other stuff during the meeting. I can't just sit and focus in a meeting. I have to be doing something. So this helps me pay attention to the meeting, which is what I should be doing.
Right. And not just multitask.
And not just
half multitask.
Looking at my email and I don't like to say multitask because you're not really multitasking. You're reading your email and you're not paying attention to the meeting.
Right.
Because then they'll say, so Scott, what are your thoughts on that? And I'll be like,
I'm
sorry.
Rephrase that in the form of a question, please.
I'm sorry, I was paying such close attention to what you said that I didn't even form an opinion.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, that's my next work in progress.
Great.
So.
I will do my next work in progress. So this is this one's getting. I almost thought I might have this pretty much ready to show for this podcast because it's getting really close. This is the Tailwind shawl or whatever by Josh.
It's a Tailwind shawl.
Shawl by Josh Ryks-Robinsky or Geonitrix. So it is done with. So please don't fall stitches. So here it is. It is really, really close to being done. So it's basically done. I took a set of mini skeins, which I don't remember. They were not Slytherin covers. They were Whip Me On measures. They're Ravenclaw colors, which is my house.
So is Ravenclaw blue?
It's blue. It depends. It's blue or blue and silver, blue and copper.
Okay.
Depending if you're talking the books or the movies.
Okay.
Nerd. So anyway, and then the in between is Rustic Wanderings, by Monkey Yarns. So yeah, this is really close to being done. I'm super excited. So the way it works is you have this kind of triangular pattern and then sort of in between, and so there's six colors I'm using. So brown, less brown, brown blue, 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 dark blue, 6. And so now I'm repeating that, and I've got 2 more of that triangle section left. So, and these things, I can do a section in about an hour and a half. It's basically a movie to do it. So, this is almost done. I actually took some time today to weave in the ends because it's a shawl and so there's 8 million ends. So I have the ends woven in pretty much up to here. So that's really fun because
you've woven them in, you just haven't cut them.
Yeah, because I do the thing where I block and then I cut them.
Gotcha.
But yeah, it's almost done. And it kind of.
That's gonna be nice.
Yeah, I probably won't wear it like this, exactly like this because of. But yeah, I really like this pattern. I love how sometimes the shawl you get to the point where I basically have the pattern memorized, so I don't really look at the pattern very closely.
Right.
So yeah, almost done. There is an I-cord bind off, I believe, at the top, which will take about a week. But
I still have never done an I-cord bind off, and I've never done an I-cord
cast on.
Oh, is there an I-cord cast on?
Yeah, I think so.
And I've never done an I-cord, just an I-cord.
They're so pretty. I mean, it's just.
Is that an I-cord?
Yeah, this is all I-cord. This is an I-cord.
Okay. Oh yeah.
So, and then it's got. Yeah. So it just makes a really nice border.
Yeah.
Oh, it's backwards. So anyway, coming right along.
Maybe I'll do an I-cord on my swatches.
You could.
I'm just making a joke.
I mean, why not? So anyway, coming along, it'll be done pretty soon. And yeah, I'm excited because it'll just be a fun little accessory.
Perfect.
Excellent.
All right, so my last work in progress is, you don't have any more works in progress?
I do not.
Okay. My last work in progress is related to our knit-along. So do you want to do your acquisitions?
Sure. Do you have any more acquisitions? Do you have acquisitions?
No, just that pineapple from
Okay.
Sweet Georgia.
So this is, a couple of weeks ago, I went online and I was in my, I need to buy from Indie Dyers kit, which is always a good thing. And so I ordered some yarn from Lady Dye Yarns. She's an indie dyer. She's in Boston, I believe. And she's great. She's a really kind of advocate for kind of the social justice, race-based critique of the knitting world. She's just very smart. She's written some really, really right-on stuff about that.
Oh, that's right. I remember you telling me about her articles.
And she makes sure she, supports, sort of diverse voices in her making and who she promotes and stuff like that. So I went onto her site and just bought a bunch of yarn. And I like her yarn anyway, so it's still a bonus.
Double whammy?
Double whammy. So this is what I got.
Or double bonus.
Double bonus. Double whammy
is a bad thing.
I think. So the first one I got a bunch of DK yarn. And so the first one is, it's 100% superwash merino, DK, and this one is called Georgia Pecan. So, really pretty. For some reason, I feel like
Beautiful.
I've gotten a lot of, I've just bought a whole lot of DK lately. So.
Yeah, now that my knowledge of patterns in general is starting to grow, I'm starting to know more about hats and cowls.
Right.
It's like, I was only buying sock yarn for a long time because I just knew that a pair of socks, you could knit a pair of socks from a skein of sock yarn. And so now I'm like, okay, well, you can knit a hat typically from 100 gram skein of DK.
Yeah, and I think that's probably, this seems very hatty to me.
Yeah.
Especially because it's really nicely wound, so I think maybe a cabled hat would be really cool with this. And just, it's tonal, right?
Yeah.
Right? That's what you call it.
I think tonal means that it's one tone, but there's variations like highs and lows within that tone.
Yeah, and I think
it's not a solid and it's not variegated.
Right,
so
I think this is tonal.
I think that's tonal.
But yeah, I love this. It's just I just like the color a lot. It's really pretty. Yeah. And then I also got, I love this one. I don't know. This is also DK, and this is called Hannibal.
Do we know where that name comes from?
Maybe the TV show? Maybe. I'll have to look it up. I mean, she tends to have pretty good stories about her yarn colors, so, or it could be Hannibal, Missouri. I don't know. But I love this. I'm really curious to see what this knits up like.
Yeah.
Just it's got the really dark blue, the sort of orangey, sherbety color, and then this white. So, and then finally, this one is called Amadeus. Another one, another DK with just really a nice. Let me take the band off so you can see the sort of this end right here.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Would you be willing to unskein one of those?
Sure.
Or unravel one of them?
only if you promise to reskein it.
Yep, I promise.
Thank you, honey. So, yeah, this is just so.
So one of the things I'm wondering about, we'll talk about this more when I look at my cast on, is long, what did Stacy call that on Very Pink Knits? Long strand dyed yarn?
Yeah.
Because this is not that, because you can see it's only a few inches. Okay, we're going to get a little more situated here.
Okay.
Like the pink is just a few inches.
Right. So would this like do like little blips?
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a little bit when I get to the hat.
Okay, reskein.
Okay, wait, hang on. It looks a little janky.
Yeah, it is. I think I might have.
You messed it all.
Probably.
Cool. So
that's really fun, and I've she's one of those dyers. She's a bunch of like clubs and stuff like that, and I've always wanted to do those, but I've just I was like, I'm just gonna buy 3 skeins of yarn from her.
Yeah.
So, very, very cool.
Cool. All right. Okay.
Again, Lady Dye Yarns.
So then the next thing, let's talk about our knit along.
Let's do.
So, thanks to Trilogy Yarns, we have some prizes to give away, and so we decided to do a knit along. And our knit along is crochet or knitting, but the goal is to do Entrelac or Intarsia projects because those were both techniques that we knew nothing about.
Right, and we'd never done.
Never done. So I am obsessed with my Intarsia, Entrelac hat. We decided I'm going to do something in Entrelac and John's going to do something in Intarsia, with Intarsia. So I decided to do a hat, and I decided to do the Woolly Wits. Sorry, no, Woolly Wits is the name of her blog, and maybe her company. It's All Squared Up 2.0. And so it's Theresa Schabes is her name, woolly-wits.blogspot.com. And so her pattern is so well done. The thing about Entrelac is it's a construction method that doesn't, it's one of those things you almost have to see to understand. Which
Right.
I'm glad that I went and looked at the Very Pink Knits tutorial on Entrelac. However, this pattern is written so well, and it's like a lot of patterns. If you just trust the pattern, especially if it's a well done, well-known designer, paid for pattern that's been vetted and tested and all that kind of stuff. Just trust the pattern and it will work out. For example, and this is a paid for pattern, so I'm not going to give any of the details away, but after her first section of the hat, she says, the initial triangles are going to look very odd. Don't worry. After you complete the first row of blocks, they will lay nicely. So I got done with the first round of triangles and I was like, these look weird. They look bunched over like I didn't do them right. And I was like, oh, these initial triangles are going to look very odd. Don't worry. So I was like, it's a very well written pattern. So, this is my work in progress. So you can see so it's 6 inches of a double 2x2 rib that I doubled over. I did a provisional cast on, doubled it over, knit the stitches together to create this. I'm dropping stitches. To create this double brim. Move up towards the camera a little bit so that we can see this. But as you can see, we've got these triangles here, and then you've got squares that attach to the triangles and come off of the triangles. And a lot of people, so the whole thing about long strand dyed yarn is that a lot of people, when they knit stuff like this, they want the squares to be all one color. So that you've got fun, each shape is one single color. I didn't know if this yarn was going to do that. So I just used it to see what would happen, and it's definitely not that kind of thing. The amount of it's shorter times.
Right. So it basically does a series of like different stripes.
Right. However, I don't think that's a problem with this because the things go a different direction, the stitches go a different direction, and I just think this is the coolest
Yeah, this is
thing.
going to be really cool when you're done with it.
Yeah, so what you do is you do the triangles, and then you do the first row of squares in counterclockwise, and then you work the next set of squares in clockwise. And I don't know what's after that. That's as far as I've looked in the pattern.
Do you wrap and turn?
No. It
just works?
It just works.
Okay.
Because what you're doing is you're picking, the first round you're picking up the side of the triangles.
Gotcha.
And you're knitting, and that brings you to the top of the next triangle. So then you pick those up and you knit, then you pick those up and you knit, and you're working this way. And then when you get to the end, when I get to the end of the round, I think, I just dropped like 8 stitches. I think what'll happen is when you get back around, you're going to end up picking up on the squares that you just knit, and then you're gonna, when you get done with a square, you're gonna be at the other side of the next square, so that's why you're gonna end up going the other way. And maybe that's true of a lot of Entrelac patterns, I don't know, but let me see if I can stretch it out a little. So so it kind of, I'm just super excited about this. So, and this yarn is perfect for it. So let's talk about the yarn.
Yes.
So scoot back here. So I grabbed this yarn out of my stash.
So our stash is a little out of control.
Well,
not out of control. It's
not as big as some people.
Right, but we have a lot of yarn.
We have a lot of yarn, and we don't...
And we keep adding to it.
Yeah, we don't necessarily know where some of it came from. And I have in the past had a bad habit of taking the ball band off, unwinding the hang, and then redoing what I just did where I put it back together, but not putting the ball band back on because I don't re-twirl it well enough to where the ball band can fit on. I think that's what happened in this case. So I grabbed it, and I did the wraps per inch test to make sure it was a DK or close to a DK yarn, which it was. And I'm like, you know what? I think it was you who pointed out that it's like, okay, every skein of yarn that we've bought in the last 2 or however many years we've been doing this YouTube show, we have talked about on the YouTube show.
Right.
We must have record of this yarn somewhere. So I sat and thought about it for a little bit, and I remembered that there are 2 skeins of yarn that I bought that are somewhat similar. This skein of yarn, and then another skein of yarn that's called...
Rainbow Cat, right?
No, that's sock yarn.
Okay.
Another skein of yarn that's called Turkish Carpet.
Oh, right. Yep.
And I knit the Michael hat by Jessica LaRue on that. So I knew it wasn't the Turkish Carpet, and I remembered that the Turkish Carpet I had bought at Darn Knit Anyway in St. Cloud during Stillwater during the second shop hop that I went on, and I've only been on 2. So through the process of elimination, I determined that it was probably the first yarn hop that I had bought this at, shop hop that I bought this at. So I remembered that at the beginning of first doing this YouTube show, that
we did a shop hop sort of. We talked about all the stuff that first sock hop. Shop hop, where you buy sock yarn.
I found the discussion of this yarn on episode 2.
Nice.
And if I can, I'm going to insert my discussion of that yarn here because it's kind of funny to have a blast from the past. So we'll let that go here. So we went to Stephen B. And I tried not to... I was like, I'm going to go to Stephen B. And this is my home store, so I'm not going to buy anything because I can buy anything here anytime. And yeah, right, that didn't work. So what they had was they had a million different custom colorways that they had. And Miss Babs did the custom yarn for him. And so all the store employees were dressed up like different Lady Gagas. There was one woman walking around and she just had sunglasses and it was just a mirror. And like, it was just a mirror. And I was like, can you see us? She'd come up and talk to you and I'm like, can you see me? And she's like, yeah. So anyway, Stephen B goes gaga. And this is, I just thought this was so cool. It's a massively huge skein of yarn. You can see it's got like that, and then it has that, and then it has that, and then it has cat hair all over it.
Because everything in our house has cat hair all over it.
Then it has that. Like, it just has everything. And this one I struggled to figure out which was the base, it's 100% superwash merino. It's 8 ounces, which I don't know how many grams, but it's 560 yards. It's Yowza, but I don't know if that's the base. I think it probably Yowza is the base and Stephen B goes gaga. I wonder what this thing could be used for. Maybe it's just a bracelet. Oh, I think it's a slab bracelet. It's totally a slab bracelet.
Stephen B is like one of our local yarn stores. In case.
Yes, in case people don't know. And he's been to a lot of the shows. I don't know. I think I know he teaches.
Yeah. He's one of the ones.
He did a book with Stephen West.
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh.
Stephen and Stephen.
Oh, that sounds like fun.
Yeah. And so he's pretty well known in the knitting world, at least in the United States.
Yeah.
And he's got this larger than life personality, and he's just
and a larger than life yarn store.
Larger than life yarn store. It's an old fire station.
Mm-hmm. Someone once said, I had a friend of mine who, when I was first getting into knitting in the Twin Cities, she's like, you need to go to Stephen B. And I'm like, well, what's it like? She's like, it's a big gay yarn store. And then you walk into it and you're like, yep.
It's a big gay yarn store.
It's really fun. And everyone who works there is just delightful.
And they're so knowledgeable and so helpful. Yeah. And they have a men's knit night. And
they have classes that I keep wanting to take and never do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, sorry, I lost my train of thought. But yeah, so that's what the yarn is. It's more than... I want to say it's like 200 grams. The skein itself was 200 grams because you can see this is a very large skein or cake of DK yarn. And this, I've knit all of this from that skein still. And I still have all of this left. So I think I wrote it down, but I don't remember where I wrote it down. But it's... I have a project page on Ravelry that I started for this, and I put all of that information about the yarn and everything. So it was a colorway that was done specifically for that yarn shop hop, so it's not a repeated colorway, so it's not one you can buy anymore, but anyway, I just think it's great for that pattern.
Great. I think it'll be great. I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
Makes me want to do Entrelac. My project is going to be in Intarsia, and what I've decided to do is I'm going to do a cowl, and I'm going to try to do an argyle because that's something people do with Intarsia, and I'm going to take these mini skeins from this Spice Market from Leading Them Fiber Arts, and I'm going to try to find like a color kind of like with the shawl where I found like a color to go behind it.
I think I like a really light gray.
Yeah, I think so too. And I'm going to try to do an argyle maybe with each of these twice. And then I'm going to do the overstitching for the, because argyle has the triangles
or whatever,
and has that overstitching on it. So that's my plan. Before I do this, I'm going to learn to knit Intarsia. I have a swatch started. And then I think I'm going to do a little bit of a test knit since it's really similar to the yarn I'm using a shawl, and I'm going to have a bit of yarn left over from the shawl, I'm going to try to do a small mini version of it using the mini skeins and the
Oh, the rustic wanderings and the blue?
Yeah.
So is it still going to be a full-sized cowl?
No, it's probably going to be a full-size bracelet.
Gotcha. Okay.
Just so I can get used to... Because knitting Intarsia in the round, what you have to do is... so normally with Intarsia, and again, this is all theoretical because I haven't done it yet, because you're doing these blocks of color, you have to sort of do your block, and then when you have to go one way and then back to pick up the yarn from the block from the other way. Does that make sense?
Sure.
At all? So
this kind of stuff doesn't make sense to me until I actually do it.
Yeah, I mean,
or watch somebody do it.
So, but when you do Intarsia, you do it in the round, but what you do is you do it in the round, and instead of just knitting the round, you knit in the round, and then you turn, and then knit backwards.
Okay.
So I'll do, which I do all the time.
Oh, it's like knitting flat. You're just knitting in the round, technically.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So you do a wrap.
So do you have to stitch the blocks of color together when you're done?
No, they're all knit.
Knit together.
So you take it's all knit together, and then you're twisting the yarn to hold together, and that's why you have to
together.
So when you do one block, you start right here, and then your yarn ends at the end of that block, and so to get back to it, you have to be knitting this way to get to it.
Gotcha.
So.
Oh, that makes sense. That's
Yeah.
why, like, when I was trying to do that Argyle pattern in the sweater before I knew anything about sweaters or color work or anything, I could have done that in Intarsia.
Yeah.
I was trying to do it in stranded color work, and I was like, oh wait, I'm gonna have to bring the yarn all the way around to be able to start again. Yeah.
And I think it's interesting, so again, not knowing anything. I feel like with Intarsia,
we're going to have a video after you're done with it, and we're going to say, look at all the things you said that were wrong.
But with Intarsia, I think, because you don't have this, because stranded color work kind of is smaller, and you just change needles. With Intarsia, I don't think I think you keep the gauge is more consistent.
Yeah. Oh, that makes sense, because you're not doubling the fabric by bringing the yarn strands behind or whatever. So
what I might do, so the idea is to do an Intarsia cowl that is, a cowl. And then what I might do is, because it's fingering weight yarn and that seems pretty flimsy, is I might do a provisional cast on and then do an inside to it too.
Kind of like the
Snuggle is Real cowl. So we'll see. Yeah. Again, it's all... And so basically what I'm doing is I'm making it my own pattern, which is a little terrifying, but I think can be done.
Yeah. Yeah, or, if you understand how it works. I mean, no, never mind.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to
But that's what I'm doing. I'm doing a couple of swatches to sort of make sure I've got it sort of figured out before I start on the main project.
That makes sense.
So.
Yeah, we've got until the end of, what did we say, the end of July?
Yeah. So that's coming not as slowly as I'd like it to be, because it's May 17th now, but it seems doable.
All right, so that's our knit-alongs.
So now we have two very important segments.
Okay.
We have the Angela Lansbury movie Madness review, and then we have a brief Betty Ann update.
I don't know if I want to talk about the Betty Ann update.
She did hurt you.
I mean, the world needs to know.
So here's the deal. Last week, we said some very nice things at Betty Ann because we wanted to make sure that people didn't think she was a monster. And then it turns out
she calls me on my birthday.
Yeah.
And so, first of all, she and my husband are ganging up on me because it's the morning of my birthday, and John texts her and says, Betty Ann, you need to rein your son in because he's making way too many demands for his birthday. Mm-hmm. All I wanted was rhubarb muffins for breakfast, a cake, a campfire with s'mores at the end of the day, and presents and a Zoom party with our friends. That is not too much to ask. And not to do any chores and not to have to take the dog for you know what. And not to have to feed the cats.
Right. And I believe oh, I know what it was. There was something like, I was like, would you mind doing a dish?
That is not true. I was still in bed.
Right.
So then Betty Ann's response to him is, because he texts her this, her response is, he's all yours now. Like I'm some kind of whatever, person that needs to be taken care of. So then she calls me a little later for my birthday. See, Harris is supportive. And
he's bored. That was a big yawn.
So we were talking, and she's, like, happy birthday, sweetie, and all that stuff. And then she says, yeah, I mean, as you get older, you feel the same. Sit back. As you get older, you feel the same inside. You always, my great-grandparents, they were still alive. A few of them were still alive when I was born. And she said, they used to say, you still feel 20 inside, even though they were like in their 90s. And she said, but then you look at yourself and your body tells you you're just an old bitch. So Scott, you're just an old bitch.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Yeah.
So
she is cut out of the will.
I wrote that in my diary. The diary that I'm keeping for my therapist. Because I think that she needs to know how she affects the people around her.
Yeah.
I'm just an old bitch.
Yeah.
Is that how you think of me?
Yes, that is exactly how I think of you. It's my husband, the old bitch.
So, yeah. That's Betty Ann for you, up one side and down the other.
Yeah, that's just an example of her being problematic.
Yeah, she's a real problem. But I, pretended like it was funny and I liked her because she's buying me Chow Goo needles.
Right,
so.
exactly.
I sucked it up and moved on with my life.
It's all good. Now that we've seen that she's ordered it.
Yeah,
right?
once we got the confirmation that the needles were on their way.
We're like, okay, now the truth can be told. All right.
Okay, so Angela Lansbury.
Speaking of looking old on the inside and on the outside, so for this week's Angela Lansbury theater extravaganza, we watched The Picture of Dorian Gray from 1944.
44 or 45?
I think 44.
Okay.
Because there's a story about how she got offered the role in Gaslight and The Picture of Dorian Gray in the same week.
Oh, okay.
So
The Picture of Dorian Gray was, so as you said, it was in 44. She was 19.
Something like that, yeah. Playing a 19-year-old.
Playing a 19-year-old.
Yes.
So that's our two things about, and she got, she was way down the list.
Fourth billing, maybe?
Yeah, but that's, she wasn't a main character. She was kind of a main, no, she wasn't a main character. She was a supporting character.
Yeah.
So she played the role of Sybil Vane, the actress that Dorian Gray fell in love with. And it's interesting how the movie treated the character of Sybil Vane as opposed to the book. Because I feel like in the book, it talks about the fact that as an actress, she was so compelling that it's what drove him to fall in love with her. But then, what was it that made him switch his opinion of her?
In the book, she's this really amazing actress, and the reason she's an amazing actress is because she fully inhabits the roles.
That's
so
right.
she goes up on stage, and because she has no life outside of her art, she is, she can just be Lady Macbeth, be Rosalind, whomever. She's a Shakespearean actress. And in the book, she meets Dorian, falls in love with him, and starts thinking about a future of her own. and because she is now thinking of herself as she doesn't fully inhabit her characters anymore, and so she comes up on stage and she's like, Romeo, oh Romeo.
Wherefore art thou,
Romeo? Torvald, it was a doll's house.
So in the movie, I think.
But anyway, so once he sees her when she's no longer a great actress anymore because she's in love with him, he's like, oh, you basic.
Catch on the flip side, peace out.
Yeah.
So I think that would be very. So in the movie, she's a singer.
Mm-hmm.
She's like a vaudeville singer type.
Yeah.
And then he tempts her with sleeping with him, but she's supposed to represent this purity, but because of the fact that she does sleep with him after he tempts her, he basically says he's not going to marry her unless she sleeps with him. Of course, it's not said in those exact words. And she goes through with it, then he loses interest in her. And I think, it's so, in my opinion, when I read the book, it was so, that description of Sybil Vane as a character was so compelling because of how he described her not existing outside of her art and how she just fully realized these characters. The way that Oscar Wilde wrote all of that was so compelling and so unique. But I think it would put pressure on an actor to be able to actually, especially a 19-year-old actor, to be able to demonstrate that, because that's a show don't tell kind of thing.
Right.
So I think it made sense that they switched it into the way that they did for the movie, because I think it would be very difficult for someone to demonstrate.
It would be hard to do that convincingly. Right. You'd have to have someone who is, and not that Angelina's not a great actress, but like that is like next level.
Well, and it's a matter of interpretation too, I think.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was one big change with her specific character, but I took some notes.
What was the song she kept singing about the yellow bird?
About the yellow bird.
Goodbye, yellow bird.
I don't remember. So, the most important question I have is, I thought Dorian Gray was supposed to be attractive.
I guess Dorian Gray's supposed to be attractive.
I don't mean to be shady, but...
Well, he's supposed to be blonde, too.
He was awfully skeletal.
Yeah, I think he was, kind of when you look at old movies sometimes, kind of like with Samson and Delilah.
Oh, yeah.
Where, like, the lead character is, like, super hot guy, and, like, he looks like a big oaf.
I mean...
Sorry.
I'm not saying that I'm devastatingly handsome, so I have no room to talk. However, if you're supposed to be portraying one of the most beautiful specimens of
beauty ever. Right.
In literature.
Right. And, like, maybe that was what because, like, you look at these older movies and you're like, okay, that person is nice looking, but they're not what I would think of as...
he was classically handsome, I guess.
Right.
Or he was, like, he had porcelain skin.
Right, the high cheekbones.
And as I think it was Todd Thomas had messaged me, or somewhere we were talking about this, and you told me that he said that Angela Lansbury and that actor that played Dorian Gray were like best friends not best friends, but really good friends, like after that movie for the rest of their lives, or the rest of his life.
That's something I didn't tell you. So.
Okay, so Todd told me that. Anyway, he is a designer. I'll put his information at the bottom of the screen. But
I tested
it ahead of his.
Yeah.
So the other thing was that I was really impressed with the moment in the movie where they revealed the painting the first time, because first of all, it was a really great painting of the actor.
Right.
But I was like, wow, why am I so struck by this painting? Why is it such an intense experience of viewing this painting just in a movie? And it's because the whole movie's in black and white, but the painting's in color.
Right.
and it was just like, it took me a moment to register that, because they show the picture and it's in color.
Right.
But then later, when the painting is in frame, but there are other things in frame, it's just in black and white. But when it's the only thing on screen, it's in color, which I thought was a cool... So the other thing is Angela Lansbury dies
45 minutes into
45 minutes in.
beating her Samson Delilah record by quite a bit.
What was it that we said we were going to start tracking? Oh, meaningful deaths.
Meaningful deaths. So she had a very meaningful death.
In Samson and Delilah.
But in Samson Delilah, her role was just kind of to die.
Right.
And provide motivation for the other characters. So I feel like in this one, she's a little meatier role. Definitely, of the two female characters, hers was the better role.
Yeah.
I think. Apparently, Donna Reed, who played the female lead for the second half of the movie, wanted the Sybil Vane part.
Speaking of Donna Reed,
Mm-hmm.
I had forgotten until I saw her on screen that as a little gay boy growing up,
Mm-hmm.
I was obsessed with the Donna Reed show.
Huh.
It was like on Nick at Night or
Right.
something, or not Nick at Night, whatever the
Yeah, Nick at Night.
reruns of
Mhm.
reruns of reruns kind of thing.
Yeah.
I was obsessed with the Donna Reed show.
I just
watching it 40 years or 30 years after it was on.
I just remember her because she played Miss Ellie in Dallas for a season.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, Barbara Bel Geddes, who played Miss Ellie for most of the series.
Yeah.
Like, she took a year off for something, either health reasons or personal reasons, I can't remember why. And Donna Reed was Miss Ellie for a season.
I did not know that.
And that was when I first started watching Dallas, so she was my first Miss Ellie.
Oh, that's weird. I did not know that.
And it's just funny because she's not that this is interesting to anybody, but like Barbara Bel Geddes is like this really kind of like, I don't want to say, like her Miss Ellie was like super like, you know, steel beneath this soft exterior. Donna Reed was just steel.
Really?
Like she was like you like with whatever. It's just kind of funny.
Yeah.
And that was like the first time I ever had seen like that whole thing like where a part was played by two different actors and they didn't acknowledge that it changed at all. Just
Right.
like the next
Did
season.
they do that thing where they're like,
where they faded in? No.
Well, you know, like on soap operas.
Oh, yeah,
it's
the
like,
role-
the role of
Right.
Miss Ellie will now be played by.
No. It was just in the intro. It was Donna Reed for 1 year, or maybe 2 years, and then Barbara Bel Geddes for the next.
The other thing, and the last thing I wrote on my notes, which is really important, is that from now on, to be fancy, we're gonna call lunch luncheon.
Nice, good call.
Yeah. So, since that's what they kept referring to, having lunch in the movie, because they're fancy.
But yeah, it's a good movie. Like I thought.
Yeah, and Chevy. Okay, the dog wants to go outside. You want to go outside? Let's go outside. Come on, let's go outside. Chevy Rell commented because I had posted on Instagram
that we were watching
that we were watching it, and she said, you know, she got 15 minutes in and she couldn't. She's like, should I try again? I do think that the first part of the movie was slow.
Yeah.
Like it was this, like, what was the other movie? I feel like there was another movie we just watched that we talked about this, where it's like it was really slow as they're developing who the characters are, and they're establishing the characters, and they're establishing why a lot of this matters. And then, but then once he kind of, I think once Sybil Vane dies, then the movie just gets wacky.
Right.
In a fun way. In a fun way. So, oh God, and the painting of him, so the painting that had gotten corrupted because he had put all of his
Evil into
age
the
and
painting.
evil and everything into the painting was horrific.
Yeah.
I mean, it shocked me. It was scary to look at. And it was from 1944.
Right.
And
It's actually in the Art Institute of Chicago.
The actual painting from the movie. Yeah, it was just like, whoa, that was intense. I did not have that when I read the book. I did not have that image in my head.
No.
At all. I mean, it was almost psychedelic.
Yeah. It was
looking,
nuts.
So, all right. So now we're looking up the movie, the next Angela Lansbury movie. What should we go in order, chronological order?
No.
Okay.
I have an idea of what I want to do, but I'm not sure.
Oh, so some people have been mentioning, oh, you should watch Beauty and the Beast, because she plays the voice of Mrs. Potts. I will say that being that the movie came out in... When did the Beauty and the Beast come out?
89 maybe?
Yeah, so we were kids when that movie came out, and we watched it a lot.
91.
Well, okay, I was starting high school, so I watched it a lot. Know all the songs by heart, and we've seen the live version, and we saw it in the movie when it was re-released a few years ago.
So I think we should do...
So I'm not finished with my story. So it's a good recommendation, but we know that movie inside and out, so that's why we haven't talked about it or talked about watching it.
So we could watch Pirates of Penzance.
Oh yes.
We could watch The Sweeney Todd, or we could watch Death on the Nile. I feel like we can go back to...
Let's watch Pirates of Penzance.
Okay.
Because it's such a frickin' goofy movie.
Linda Ronstadt, Kevin Kline.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to know if there's anybody else out there who is about my age, or maybe, I don't know that you necessarily have to be my age or our age, but so I was born in 1977.
Almost exactly.
Almost exactly 43 years ago. And so my family was what they call early adopters with technology. So something new would come out and they would jump on it, and not with everything, but like with VCRs and cable and stuff like that. So we got cable pretty early on, and we got HBO and Showtime and stuff like that. And so back in the old days when HBO first started, you would, and before streaming and all that, you would have, HBO would have like 5 movies that would come out in the month, and they would play those movies over and over and over and over again. And so as a kid, I would watch certain movies over and over and over and over again because that's all that was on HBO. And it would just, you couldn't pick when it came out, but when it was on, it was just on, and so you had to pick. Our dog wants attention.
He's playing with. He's off camera
with one of his toys,
and he really wants us to play with him really badly.
Trying to show us how vicious he is.
Yes.
So did you never have that experience? Because you didn't have cable, right?
No.
You didn't even have TV for part of your childhood.
We were. What's the opposite of early adopter? Yeah.
Yeah.
What's Yeah.
Academics.
No, just like
Since your parents were academics.
Yeah, I think it's just intentional Luddites.
Intentional Luddites. So, so anyway, the point of the story is that Pirates of Penzance was one of those movies for me. So I've probably seen it 30 times.
Okay.
But I haven't seen it
since I was
in 30 years.
Yeah.
But
that's
30 years ago, I saw it 20 times.
Cool.
Is Poor Wandering One from Penzance? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And I'm the very model of a modern major general.
No, that's Pinafore.
Nope.
Isn't it?
Nope. Because the father of all the women is the major general.
Okay. I thought that was Pinafore.
I'm pretty sure.
What's the big song from Pinafore?
Buttercup. Still on called Buttercup, sweet
Buttercup. Okay. Anyway.
I don't know. Oh, give 3 cheers and 1 cheer for the well-made captain of the Pinafore.
Okay.
Anyway. I know my... So
I don't know Pinafore at all.
Okay.
Oh my God. So for next week, your homework is to watch Pirates of Penzance. That's a Gilbert and Sullivan, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely an all-star cast from 1981.
Yes, 1983.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, whatever. All right, so we hope everybody's enjoyed this time with us.
Yeah,
and our
dog who does not know how to sit still.
Yes. And so next week we will have Pirates of Penzance. We will have, I might potentially have another skein of gold yarn.
Nice. You can never have too many skeins of gold yarn.
I think it's supposed to be coming in the mail.
Right. And you might get your Chow Goose.
Oh yeah, I'll probably have my Chow Goose, the blue set, and I can do a little show and tell on that. And then also, I bought never mind. It doesn't matter. And then, yeah, I'll have some more of my I think I'm going to focus on my Entrelac.
And I'm going to try to finish I think I'll finish the shawl this week, the Tailwind, because it's basically, it's 3 Star Trek episodes away from being done.
Gotcha.
Now that I've woven in most of the ends, it just feels like it's finished.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to work, I think the next thing I'm going to start working on is figuring out my Intarsia project.
Perfect.
All right.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.